All right, great. Yeah, I'm going to get started here in just a couple minutes. I'm going to be going over graphics. And I believe it or not, guys, I started my entire career as a graphic designer. I did graphic design for years and years and years and years. And I started doing 3D. I was doing 2D. I used to do flash animations and stuff like that back when that was a thing. I did a ton of design work, and I still do a lot of design work. It's not the same stuff I used to do. And I'm not comparing myself to ILM, but it was my job for a long time. It was one of the ways that I landed many, many clients. In fact, it was really relevant to landing clients and making sales, was understanding how to wow customers and how to show them, you know, what was wrong. Years and years ago, there was something that's still there, but when compositing window managers came out for Linux, you could basically configure your operating system where your screen was a cube, and you'd hit a button on your keyboard and you'd move your mouse and you could rotate the entire screen up and down. And this is before OS X and all the eye candy of that. So it was something that they'd never seen before. And I used to do my presentations to clients in my office when I was a young punk, you know, business guy. And I would do them all. And I was kind of a trick because, you know, I had the system over in the corner and it was running Linux, and it had a custom tweaked window manager on it. You know, it was running CompHiz. That was what it was called. And I would put all my demos up there, but I wasn't using those computers to do any of the design work. That was all on NT machines, Windows 2000 machines at the time. But it used to get me a lot of clients, because when people are wowed by what you're showing them, they buy. That's when they crack out their pocketbook and they open up their wallet. They don't care what they spend. We got a lot of late attendees today. Gosh, you know, usually we're pretty full house as we get close to the hour, but I think I may end up starting this a couple minutes late because of, you know, just one of those days. I never know when I do these webinars if it's going to be a full house or a handful of people. It always varies. You know, it's always a lot of people, but I never know if we're going to be like stacked or it's going to be slow. And if people are avoiding this webinar because they don't want to know about design, they are really, really making a mistake, because this is kind of front and center to the whole topic of sales, marketing, biz dev, website sales, and everything else. Design is crucial. So let's see here. We got about 30 seconds left, and I think I'm going to wait just 5 extra minutes here for those of you who've joined early. Tina, Mike, Jim, 2 Marks, Ralph, Sorrel, of course, I see you there, and a whole bunch of people who are no names, which is kind of weird, but we always get people who just don't put a name in, or they call themselves Spacebar. But we've got a bunch of folks there. But to everybody who are here who's waiting, I appreciate you waiting patiently. We'll get started as soon as possible. Just waiting for people to kind of filter in. And they usually filter in a couple minutes after the hour. And I will be starting then to today's topic. For those of you, wow, we just had a whole bunch of people join. For everybody just joining, the topic today is going to be graphics. You guys can see me, and you should see a presentation. It says graphics general principles. Can you guys all see that? And that's looking good. You're hearing me okay? I always want to check, because there's nothing worse than getting halfway through a presentation and finding out that something is awry. And with Zoom or with any of these applications, something is often awry. So if somebody could just let me know, Sorrel, if you could just let me know, can you see my screen with the color on it and the palm tree and all that? All right, great. Thanks, David. All right, we'll be getting started in just a couple minutes. There's just so many people flooding in right now that I want to give everybody a chance to hop on. And we're going to be going over graphics, and I'm going to cover a lot of the foundational basic stuff. I'm also going to show you guys some apps you can get completely for free. And I'm going to kind of go through some user interface, user experience design principles. And I'm going to cover web design do's and don'ts, and a bunch of stuff about logos. This stuff is really, really important. You know, of the sort of foundational brass tack type videos that I've produced and things that I've made, I think this is one of the most important videos that I'm going to produce for you guys. in the time that I'm a trainer. If this is stuff you don't know, you have learning gaps, and we need to fill those gaps right away, because landing clients, big part of landing clients in this industry is design. Design is, what you look like, right? In terms of your product, your work product, in terms of your websites, your brochures, your graphics. And it's also comprehension, because we're dealing in files and we're dealing in graphics and we're dealing in design elements all the time when we're working on stuff. So knowing what you're touching and knowing what you're working with is kind of crucial, right? Be like working at a steel mill and not understanding what a hammer is or something like that. So I'm going to cover a lot of stuff that I think is very important for you guys to know. And I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes just for last minute attendees to get on, because I feel bad for people who join and, they don't get to see the full presentation. It's just a couple minutes. And I'm certain that a lot of people, have problems with their connections and stuff like that, because we've got people from all over the country and all over the world who join these webinars now. So just going to give everybody a couple minutes. I'll start 5 after, and I'm just going to mute out here. Well, actually, I won't mute out. I'll talk to you guys. Does anybody have any questions? Anything you'd like me to cover in the design realm or design domain? Anything you'd like to see me specifically explicate for you or go over or give my 2 cents on or explain? Anything like that. Be happy to cover your questions. Fire them away as I'm going, and I will absolutely answer your questions here. And okay, well, let's see. Yep, we got a bunch of people still joining. Take a puff on my vape. Great thing about being vaping is you can vape indoors. This is like the coolest thing ever, because I was a very much a nicotine loving tobacco fan for a long time. Then, 20 years passes, your lungs start to rot a little bit, and it's time for a change. Well, for some people, that's Nicorette gum and quitting. For me, that was picking up a vape device and inhaling antifreeze with nicotine in it. It's not exactly healthy, but healthier-ish. Cool part is it allows me to, work in my studio and still vape away. So, yeah, I see a few people commenting about it. Yeah, I do vape, and I love my vaping. Okay, guys, about 30 seconds here. My questions. Okay, Tony, yeah, fire away your question. I will answer at the end for sure. Anyhow, we're about at time. Going to give it 20 more seconds because we've still got people filtering in. And I see that number. It goes tick, 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 tick. People are joining. And I'll get started here in just a couple seconds. So what I put together here for today's webinar, we're going to jump back and forth between the presentation and the my web browser, because I want to show you a bunch of web-based stuff and software and things like that. But I also want to go over stuff in this presentation that I've got. And the first thing I want to go over are image formats, because, gosh, people get so confused over image formats. It's not even funny. And if it's not something you've done a little bit of studying on, it's something that you can be really confused by, because, I've had people ask me, why are there more than one image format? Well, the short answer to that is that over time, different formats evolved and were, made by different companies, right? We have the JPEG format, which is a predominant format, and it has its strengths, and PNG has its strengths, and SVG has its strengths, and these are different things, different ways of presenting visual data. JPEGs do not allow for transparency, okay? JPEGs, if you'll note, if you've ever seen a video labeled MPEG, right, is motion JPEG, right? JPEGs are images that are used absolutely everywhere. They're lower quality than BMPs or TIFFs, but they're high enough quality to basically power nowadays the entire web. In the early days of the web, we used GIFs, GIFs. GIF images were able to be animated, right? They could also have transparency. They had transparent GIFs, and that was a format that kind of died. Most of the time when you're looking at GIFs, nowadays it's on old, obsolete sites. It's a format that also carried with it, for a while anyway, a whole bunch of licensing restrictions and issues. If you wanted to make a graphics application that outputted GIF files, well, you had to pay, I think it was Kodak or Eastman Kodak. One of those companies bought it, and for a while you had to pay money. So it fell out of favor in favor of JPEG. Then there was PNG. PNG does not allow animation, and it was an open format designed to basically compete and replace GIF, and it largely has. PNG files can be incredibly high quality and yet still have transparency, right? So you could have a graphic that you use that has transparency behind it. In fact, right here in this presentation, this image here of this lens is a PNG file. I grabbed it, I dumped it in here, and behind it, it's just white, but it could easily be dumped on a black background or a green background or any color in the rainbow, and it would look just fine because it has a transparent background to it. SVG files are scalable vector graphics files. SVG files do not function like JPEGs, PNGs, GIFs, BIMPs, or TIFFs. Doesn't follow the same technology. SVG files are computer graphics files that are generated using vector technology, right? So what you'll have there is like, and you know what, the easiest way to do this is just to show you guys. So over here, I have an application up called Inkscape, and it's a free application, and I'll show you in a moment where you can go get it. But within this, we have a file opened up, and this is an SVG file. SVG files are used on the web all the time nowadays, all the time. And SVG graphics have the ability to be scaled up or scaled down and saved, and they have, rather than a multi-layer kind of a setup like a PSD file or a file for a graphics app, the file itself is all vector. So everything within it can be scaled up, scaled down, and changed. This is not used for photographs or for realistic images because the way that this is generated is it's done by a designer, and all these layers, all these colors you see are single layer, right? So every single color is a single piece of vector imagery. Now, I just like ruined the image, but what I was trying to illustrate to you guys is just how you can take a file like this and you can scale it and you can output it and you can work with it in ways that you can't work with a JPEG or another photograph. If you've got cameras, like a lot of you have DSLRs and cameras and stuff, you know that you can't just grab a photo and scale it up without paying the price. And that price is it gets blurry and distorted. But with SVG files, can. And why am I showing you guys this? Why am I showing you SVG files, right? You're probably asking yourself, is this guy crazy? Well, I'm not crazy. The reason I'm showing you SVG files in this application over here is because of this. This website is called flaticon.com, okay? And this is a resource where you can access literally, I'm going to paste this to you guys, to everybody here. You can access literally, 1,921,500 vector icons. And these icons run the gamut. And because they're vector, you can scale them up and use them in websites, brochures, banners, business cards, anywhere where you need a graphic. You can go here and you can grab icons and use them. Now, not all of these are licensed, to be used that way, but some of them are. A lot of them have, Creative Commons licenses or the Flat Icon basic icon or basic license. They've got all different licenses, and you can grab images like this and you can use them. And there's a lot of situations when you're running an agency where you're going to have to do that. You'll have a client say, hey, I really want to make a brochure and I want to put a pizza in it, right? I'm going to use pizza because I like pizza. Anyway, you can go here and you can grab yourself an image of a pizza. You can save it out, or you can go to this thing and save it as a PNG or an SVG, but we're going to save it as an SVG because we want to scale it up. Go do a free download, grab that thing, then go here. Then just go and open it up inside of this application. And I'll go on my other screen here, and we'll go to downloads. And I'll show you guys exactly what I mean. I'll just grab this image and dump it in here, and you can combine images together. You can, do whatever you'd like with it. But the point is, you have this ability to grab images and to save them out. Anyhow, that about covers SVGs. PNGs are very similar in the sense in their application of use as a final image format. To go back here, right, we've got Inkscape up on the screen, you know, and you can go ahead and you can actually export this, right? Export as a PNG file. And you can export it and you say, I want this to be enormous. So it's width and height are over here. You can simply scale this up and up and up and up and up any way you want, right? It's going to go home, Jake, bitmap PNG. I hit apply, or I hit export, and it exports this enormous file. So from this tiny little icon, because it was scalable, I'm able to export it as a very large file. And that very large file is a PNG that I can then use anywhere I need to use this graphic. It's extremely, extremely handy to have this ability to have, you know, the ability to utilize applications like this or utilize file formats like this. Now, what about BMP and TIFF? Why are they here, right? Well, the reason I put BMP and TIFF here is because some cameras still use these formats. These formats you're going to see when you're talking about very, very high-end graphics that are enormous in their footprint and not designed for the web. Like TIFF files are frequently used in source document files of like maps, giant graphics that come off of very high megapixel cameras and stuff like that because they capture enormous amounts of data and they're very lossless formats. These are not necessarily relevant to you, but it's important that you know they exist. BMP was the default format of screenshots on Windows for a long, long time as well because it's just pixel-based, right? It's purely pixel-based graphics. And that's to contrast between SVG, which is vector-based, and all the rest here, which are pixel-based. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment as well, what that actually looks like. If anyone has any questions on image formats, let me know. I wanted to cover this first because it's kind of crucial to everything else. It's one of those things that's a foundation upon which we can have, you know, a much more lengthy discussion. Now, to jump ahead, I'm going to show you guys 3 applications that'll allow you to basically edit almost any graphic you ever want to edit. And they don't, the great thing is they don't cost a penny, not a dime. Let me pull this up here for you. And here, of course, I had flaticon.com up. Well, but let's take a look, first of all, at GIMP. That's GNU Image Manipulation Program, or GIMP. I'm going to paste this to everybody. GIMP is a graphics application that allows for edit. It works on all platforms, whether you're on a Mac or you're on a PC with Windows, or whether you're somebody like me who's running Linux. You know, it'll work with anything that you've got. It's completely free, and it is a very, very, very powerful graphics editor. And it's powerful in the sense that it has many, many plugins, many, many features, and it does a heck of a lot. So let's pull something up inside of it. Okay, right here on my screen, I have GIMP up. And I have a graphic that I made before I did this presentation to illustrate good and bad logo design. And we'll go over that in just a moment as well. But before I do, I just want to show you a little bit of what GIMP has to offer. First of all, it's a full-blown graphics editor. You can go and you can, you know, do anything. It's got the layers over here. It has your channels, it has a paths, it has undo history. You have brushes, patterns, gradients. You have all the standard tools. It's very analogous to Photoshop in its strength and its ability. The reason that I think all of you need to have this, and I would have it installed on any computer that I owned, is because there are just so many situations within which you're going to be called upon to perform basic edits of graphics. You know, you sell a website to somebody. They're not a graphic designer. They don't know what they're doing. So they just throw you and send you over some graphics file from 5 or 10 years ago that they've got and say, hey, does this work for the website? Well, maybe it does and maybe it doesn't, but you're not going to be able to do anything with it if you don't have a basic graphics editor to be able to just open a file and click on, you know, image, scale image to be able to, you know, change the size of that graphic. You know, it's just something that you should be able to do if you're the person that's selling a website to somebody. And I don't think it's asking much. It really isn't. Now, to meander around a little bit, because that's what I do best, I'm going to talk about the graphic that's on my screen here. Before I go on to the next graphics app, which I will, I'm going to briefly touch upon logos for a moment. Basically, what I have on my screen here are good and bad logo designs. The good logo and the bad logo are using two different color profiles, and I'm illustrating why a good logo is designed the way it is and why a bad logo is designed the way it is. When we look at good logo up here, we notice, first of all, this is a thicker font, okay? It's a thicker, more easily readable font. It's not thin. So when good logo is scaled way down, it's still completely readable. Also, although it uses two colors, these two colors are roughly within the same contrast and shade range, right? They're not, their black and white balance is pretty much the same, so that when we take good logo and we put it on a dark background, it's still completely readable, the same as it is on a white background. Bad logo, on the other hand, uses a thin font that, as it scales down, becomes unreadable, right? It becomes very hard to make out what this says down here. And when we put it onto a dark background, we really can't read bad. On a white background, we really can't read logo. So when we scale it down, bad completely disintegrates into the dark background. This is an example of just poor logo design from a technical perspective. There are many things that are subjective when it comes to design. I mean, it's an endlessly subjective enterprise, right? Doing design work is something that, when you really think about it, it is the realm of the subjective. It's the realm of you know, how things look and how people feel about them. But there's things that are objective. There's things that you can quantify and that you can measure, and you can really, you can have a discussion about that are, you know, objective. And logo design is one of those things. A good logo should be able to scale up and fit on a billboard or the side of an airplane or a side of a building, and it should scale down to a postage stamp and still be recognizable from the largest to the smallest. It should also be recognizable when all color is taken away from it and it is turned black and white. And it should be easily readable on a wide variety of backgrounds. Of course, it can't be readable on all backgrounds, but that's why your logo should be able to be converted to black and white, made all white or made all black, and put onto a background in cases where that background just doesn't work. You need to think in terms of this when you talk about getting logos designed for yourselves. When you guys are working with, you know, companies that are doing your logos for you, or when you're going out there and assessing and looking at logo designs that are, you know, implemented by your clients, it's very important to keep in mind, you know, good and bad logos, and to be able to differentiate between the two really easily. You know, you should be able to look at a logo and say, wow, okay, that thing looks good on a white background. It's in the, you know, in the shade. The sun hits it, I can't read logo. It scales down, I can't read logo, and I can barely read bad. And if I put it on a black background, I'm not going to read anything. It's going to be completely screwed up. That is an unprofessional, nonsense design that does not belong being sold to anybody, because it's putting them in a bad position. Other thing, which is not illustrated here, I wanted to put this in, but I kind of hesitated on it, is there are lots of situations, and I see this with tons of folks, where you go out and you sell somebody. They give you a logo. Their logo, you know, looks roughly like this. It's like a little rectangular shape, right? And it's got all kinds of squiggly junk, and it's got weird photos in it. And it's just, it's a mess. It was designed by, like, you know, a 12-year-old in 1986 who was screwing around on an Etch-a-Sketch or something like that. It was not professionally made. It was not thought out, and it certainly does not work for their website. You'll see people put that logo up there, and in order for that logo to fit on the website, you have to scale it down, and when you scale it down, it becomes completely unreadable. Or the logo will be, you know, it'll have like a white background, and then the logo will be in there. There's no transparent background, and then we put it on a website that's dark, and now we have this weird, odd-looking, just slopped up there rectangle with a logo in it, floating in space. Makes no sense. Again, unprofessional. I want you guys to think about this. When you look at a logo, like let's say it's the Nike shoe logo, right? It's a little swoosh. If that swoosh is put on top of a rainbow type image, like let's say that here, I make the swoosh. Let's say this. I go ahead and I grab a graphic like this, and I go image and I go crop to selection. And then, you know, I go and I'm not going to create it for you guys. Actually, you know what? I will. Why the heck not? We'll make ourselves a little swoosh right here. Let's just make a quick little swoosh. So stick something in there like this. And we're going to put this image in here. And I'm going to illustrate to you guys exactly what's wrong. Okay, so we go and we'll do that. And then we'll go down here. And this isn't going to be a perfect swoosh, obviously, but it's going to be a little bit like a Nike swoosh. Actually, not a whole lot like the Nike swoosh at all, but you guys are going to get the point. Anyway, edit, cut. Okay, we've got ourselves a kind of a little bit of a swooshy looking thing. And why I'm doing this is because I want to show to you guys why you need to really think in terms of what you're putting up there on a website. So let's pretend, let's create a new graphic here, and let's pretend this is our website image. We're going to scale this image. We're going to make it tall. Let's make it 800 wide by just 1,000 tall. So not too huge, but big enough for our purposes here. Okay, let's pretend this is our website right now. And on our website, we have a banner across the top, and that banner is gray, right? Let's just pretend it's gray. Let's pretend we create this little gray space over the top, and then we've got areas beneath it where we're going to have text. And I'll just throw in, I don't have Lipsum handy, but let's just pretend there's a whole bunch of text here, and you know, there's buttons up at the top. Let's say that there's a bunch of links up here because this is very common, you know, link, right? And we're going to place a logo, and we're going to place that logo right in this area right here, right? And this gray area could be, you know, it could be a graphic, it could be anything. Now, if we take this image and we flatten it, right, we go edit, and let's just go to layers and merge down. Okay, so I'm going to grab this image like that, copy, edit, undo, and undo merge. And I go over here and I put this in, right? And I go paste. Oops, didn't do that on the right layer. Undo paste. Let's create another layer here and go edit and paste. Okay, so I take this image here. If I put this in here and I scale it down, right, what are we going to get? We're going to get exactly what I was talking about. We're going to get this ugly, out of place graphic. We're going to get something that does not in any way, shape, or form belong on that website, right? We're going to get a graphic that obviously just shouldn't be there. So what we should be doing when we encounter situations where, you know, we have a graphic and that graphic doesn't fit like that, we should be going and trying to get the swoosh out of the graphic. We should be going copy, and then we can go and we'll put in here, we'll delete this layer. We should be doing something like this, where we put the swoosh into the image. Oops. Okay, scale that down. I know that is like a terrible Nike swoosh. That is not Nike at all. Anyway, whatever. Point is, I just wanted to show you guys, and I know the piece got cut off there, but the point is, that's what you should be doing. It should be an image where we have just the logo, no background, and then we can control this background behind it. And this is the power, to go back to what I was just talking about, of PNG files. Because with a PNG file, I can delete the background and I can save this. I can go File, Export As. I can go down and I can export this as a PNG file, right? And that PNG file will export and it'll have no background. And because it has no background, I can take that file and I can stick it up on the website and have no background and have it fit in there. Your ideal situation when it comes to logos for your clients is always, always, always a PNG file. This does not make JPEGs wrong. It makes them limited. Because with the JPEG, to have it look proper, you're going to have that background stay monotone or stay in conformity with that, with the image. Anyhow, does this make sense to you guys? Are you guys understanding this? I just want to make sure, because I know I'm going quickly and I'm covering a lot of ground. I really wanted to do this webinar for a while now. And I kind of, you know, I didn't know if this was something that you guys would be interested in, but I think it's relevant. And I think it's something that you need to know, because I think it's going to help everybody when they're out there. So let me know, guys, if I'm going too fast. I will absolutely slow down. Let me know if I need to re-go over things that you're not understanding. There's no shame in that. Do not feel like there's a stupid question or anything like that, because this is, something you kind of need to know. Anyhow, I'm going to cover another graphics app other than GIMP. GIMP's really popular, but it has competitors too. And by the way, all these apps I'm telling you about are they're not only open source and free. These are apps that don't have any viruses, don't have any kind of a corporation behind them whatsoever. Your data is not going to get taken, none of that. So there's GIMP.org, and then there's Krita. And I'll put this up here for you guys too. And Krita is another app that's very similar to GIMP in that it does the exact same thing. It's another sort of full-featured graphics application. And here I'm pulling it up on my screen. Now, when you install it on your system, you're probably not going to have this gray-looking theme. That's just the one I've selected, or the one that defaulted on my system. You may have it looking a little bit different, but it's going to be the same app. And again, this is an application that has all those tools and all the features that I showed you over in GIMP. Right here, we can grab images, we can crop them, we can, grab an area and say, okay, I'm going to crop it, which is something that, okay, it's a simple function, but it's something, if you haven't done it before, I can totally understand somebody being confused by it, right? Cropping is just where, you have the full image and you grab it and you grab a chunk of it, and in Krita, it's very easy. Just click on the crop tool, do that. You want to resize it, you want to transform it, you can go and you can transform it. This allows you to move stuff around, rotate stuff, change it how you want. It's very quick and a very intuitive application. And that's kind of why I think a lot of people like it, because, with single tools, if you have just a 3-button mouse, 2 buttons and a scroll wheel, you can do all kinds of stuff. Scroll wheel zooms me in, scroll wheel zooms me out, move stuff around. I can go and move items with the move tool. And, there's just a lot here. And there's a ton of filters. There's a ton of capabilities. Of course, you can go and you can do all the basic stuff. You can change the image's colors, and you can, export in tons of different formats. You just go over here, click export, and, you have limitless formats with this. Just every single, industrial strength format are out there. A lot of them that you have, no business even touching, that graphic designers go their whole career and don't deal with a Sprinter SCML or an R8 HiMap. I don't even know what those are. I've never touched those before, but you have full format compatibility, and you can use this to do a heck of a lot. It's just an alternative to GIMP, but I think it's an alternative worth exploring. And again, these apps don't cost any money. They don't take up much space. I don't know why anyone would not have them installed. They're not going to spy on you. They're not going to slow your computer down. They're not going to mess anything up. They have very low resource requirements to run. And if you ever get into a situation where your client says to you, hey, can you help me out with an image? You have them. One of the things that I think there's a missed opportunity in terms of making money for a lot of people is when it comes to design, because business owners, they don't have time to do any of this stuff. They're busy. And if you've sold somebody a website and you have, a camera, decent camera from the last 10 years would do the job, you can offer to go and take photographs at that business for an extra few $100s, or maybe it's $1,000. I don't know. It's up to you. Maybe have your salesperson do it, whatever. But the point is, businesses oftentimes, like restaurants, they have terrible looking images of their food. It looks like puke's giving at that business, and it's like a pizza restaurant with a picture of something that, makes DiGiorno look like it's the gold standard. It's some nasty looking pie because the person who took the photo used their, like BlackBerry from 2006 to like snap a photo in the blue light of a fluorescent lamp. And it's horrible. When you could go in there with a camera, just a decent DSLR, decent point and shoot camera. There's plenty of them. They're great. Way overkill for this. Go in there and snap some decent photos of their pizza, of their kitchen, of the people smiling behind the counter, of some happy customers, even if they want to, if they'll allow you. And you can use that in your site development to really bring a site to life. We could always use stock imagery. That's fine. However, when you're doing like a Google My Business, or you're working on all the different stuff that you can do for that business, being able to offer them graphics, is simple. And with this app, any novice, I mean, any of you go over to YouTube. The tutorials are endless on how to use this, but they're also pretty intuitive apps that don't require you to, do a whole heck of a lot. All you'd have to do, like if you sold someone a site, you wanted to get graphics, would be to just load photos up here and just go to image and apply, some filters, colors, color to alpha, color transform, maximize, minimize channel, just basic filters to take an image and really soup it up. And you over here under filter, like in Krita, adjust. This is where all of your adjustments are to take a photo and to bring it out, to put saturation up so that the pizza looks delicious. It's one of the tricks that are often used is saturation. So there's lots of stuff here. And again, it's free. I think I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but I think you guys get where I'm coming from. Now, let me go over here, go back to our presentation. So those are the free apps. The last one, of course, I showed you guys GIMP, Krita, and I showed you Inkscape. So let's go on to logos. I already went over this, so I guess my presentation kind of derailed in that sense. I planned to go over this after I'd shown you guys the apps, but we already went over this because I pulled it up. Anyhow, now I want to talk about websites, because this is a big subject. When we talk about design in relation to websites, it's a big topic. Lots of people even people who are successful entrepreneurs in this industry are oblivious to website design. And let's go over it. I'm going to bring some stuff up, and it's time to look at some beautiful sites, and it's time to also look at some less than beautiful sites. So to start, I'm going to use the pop culture icon gold standard for design, which is Apple. All right. Just about nobody thinks Apple is ugly, or even the people who think they're ugly probably still concede that most people don't think they're ugly. Okay. Now let's take a look at this design and let's dissect it together. When you load Apple's website, what hits you first? There's a relatively subdued menu at the top, right? It's relatively subdued in the sense that it's dark gray and it's white text on a background that's dark. And they've been this way. By the way, this basic design, if you guys want to go back in time, there's something called the Wayback Machine. You can Google that, Wayback Machine. And you can pull up Apple's site from just all through history, 1999 to present, 20 years of the Apple site. And they came up with this design shortly after Jobs came back, and they have stuck with this same basic design. They've stuck with it for a reason. Human beings, our eyeballs, they ain't evolving very fast, all right? I have the same eyeballs I was born with, and so do you. So there's going to be no magic secrets in terms of getting information into my pie hole in my head. So let's take a look at this. We've got at the top this gray bar. We've got up the top all of our navigation. Below that, we have primary messaging. And you'll notice messaging here is not giant chunks of messaging, right? It's not a website that's shoveling data at you. It's a site that's asking you questions. If this were a person, this would be a guy saying to you, hey, are you interested in this? Are you interested in that? Do you like this? Do you like that? And it goes on and on like this. We have these small sections where it's like iPhone XR from 1999. One little sentence, 2 lines, buy, learn more. 2 lines, buy, learn more, image. Here, little blurb, 3 lines, learn more, buy, image. And it goes on and on and on in this way. Here, we reach a section where they want to present more dense data. They don't go real dense. They just put 2 things across the site. Watch, buy an iMac for college. It's all learn more, buy, and it's directing the user. Where do they want to go? Where are they sending this person? Now we go down to the site at the bottom. There's a sitemap. There's always a section at the bottom. I want to let you guys in on a secret. This is not unique to Apple. This design method is not unique. This design method is based upon research that was done ages ago by Ogilvy and Mather in New York City back in the 1970s, believe it or not. Print advertising flows seamlessly into the web. If you look at the research done on human behaviorism and print advertising, right? When they were trying to figure out how human beings absorbed information from written text, right? They looked at it and they found out a bunch of things. Number one, that people, big terse data was like a stop symbol. If you had or big dense data was a stop symbol. So if you had a page and you had a couple things at the top, like say you had a slogan at the top, picture of a Volkswagen Beetle right next to it, and it's like, you know, the car of hippies, Volkswagen, right? Then there was maybe a sentence underneath it like, get a Volkswagen now for less than, you know, X amount of money. Contact us, phone number. There was something like that. And then the next blurb down was a giant chunk of text. The third thing would never even get read because most people would hit that, would read, hit that dense text, get bogged down, lose interest, and look away and go away. So if you wanted to get people to absorb a whole bunch of different information relatively quickly, what you would do then is you would go ahead and you would put the data, put the stuff together in this kind of a format. Okay, so you'd put it together. Oops, sorry about that. Actually, I'm not sorry about that. Let me go back to that and show you guys. It goes all throughout the site. All throughout, we have data and we have information, not very dense. This is as dense as it gets, and this font size is huge, so it's like 2 sentences. It's not dense at all. When you're designing sites and you're building them out, and you're building things for people, always look at the human side of it, the readability. How is a person going to absorb this? One of the worst things that I don't like is when, and it's not just me, I shouldn't say I don't like, one of the worst things, period, is when you have designs that don't give people a direction to read. And you see this on bad websites. Now, I brought this site up because this is kind of a cliche. Arngren.net, I believe it's a Norwegian website. It is so badly designed, they have become like the infamy of the world of bad website designs. I have no idea who built it, why they built it, what kind of a sadistic mind put this together to torture their customers, but they did an amazing job. Marquis de Sade would come back from the grave and give them a pat on the back. This is hideous. And when you look at this hideous little devolved mess here, you can go through this and realize there's no direction. The first thing, before you look at the clutter, before you look at the shabby graphics, before you look at the unreadable fonts or the garbage design on mobile or anything else, the first thing that hits you should be, there is no direction. There's no message. There's no direction. There's no plan. There's no logic. Nothing went into this that tells me this was designed by a person with a logical, reasonable mind that was putting something together for me to absorb. All it looks like is somebody got bored and just started slapping postage stamps of products up on a page. It reminds me of like the back of old comic books. They had like little freebies in there, little things you could go and order, right? You guys have seen them. This is exactly like that, except worse. So going back to the Apple site, this design, as I said, this method is not unique to Apple. And to show you guys another example and to draw some corollaries between them, I'm going to show you the Met. Okay, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, New York City. This site is very different, right? It's a very different business. It's a very different company. It's very different in every way from Apple. The Met is a museum. It's in New York. They're not selling products. They're selling visitation. I mean, they do have a shop on here, but you get the point. This is not primarily a product company. Yet, if you analyze this design and you break it down, if you get past the graphics of it, you just look at the UI, UX of it, you look at what's going on, it's very, 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 very similar to Apple. Right here at the top, we have our top-based navigation. We go to Apple's site, let's go to the top, let's take a look. Let's go back to their homepage, right? Right here, top-based navigation. All of the links to the left, followed by search. All the links to the left, followed by search. Beneath it, one short, compelling message. Experience 5,000 years of art at the Met. Plan your visit. Not a whole bunch of links, not a whole bunch of information. One concise message being sent to the customer. Apple really has two, but you could even say it's kind of one because this is both the iPhone XR. One message. One message. Go down a little bit. Here we start to open up, and it's almost like you're entering a building and there's a whole bunch of doors, and you're opening these various doors and figuring out where you're going to go within this website, within this building. Down below, you have all of these, again, very short, very pointed messages. Oliver Beer, Vessel Orchestra, Ragnar Jartason, Death is Elsewhere. See exhibition, see exhibition. So an image catches your attention, so you mouse over it, then you read, then you click in that order. The image catches the attention, it drags the eyes that way, you get focus, you click and you go and you look. So you dig deeper. And it's doing this all throughout this site. This is site design at its finest. This is site design that Apple implements, the Met. You can go on and on. You're not going to find too much deviation from this. This is the quintessential bare bones of what the site's supposed to do. The graphics catch attention. The messaging is simple so the person can absorb it easily and know if they want it or not. All right? If you're going to sell somebody on something, you don't sell them right away, right? You don't run up to a complete stranger and start raving a pitch at them, right? That's crazy. What you do is you provoke their interest. That's how you get a lead if you think about it. And that's what you're doing visually with websites. You have the graphic that provokes the interest, the person clicks, and you start sending them down a path to learn more and more information, ultimately to do whatever outcome you've decided, whether it's buying something, booking an appointment, whatever it is. That's just how it works. We scroll through this site. We have In Praise of Painting, Dutch Masterpiece at the Met, the primer. Check out the primer. Artist interview, watch now. On the calendar, explore more. The Met 150 Design Contest. Vote now. The Met Collection, browse artworks. Become a member, join today. All very short, sweet, to the point. One sentence, not cluttered, not jammed full of data, not confusing, not overwhelming, logical, straightforward. You know somebody designed this. And again, we get to the bottom of the site. We have a bunch of links and stuff. We have the site index, terms and conditions, privacy policy, contact information, about the Met, blogs, videos, press, sign up for a newsletter, and social media links. We've got all this stuff right here at the bottom. Bring some culture to your inbox, enter your email, boom, you go. Very straightforward. This is something that you need to understand a little bit. What a good site is based upon. It's really based on logic. It's based on principles that were discovered but kind of intuitively understood for a long, long time. That, you know, if you take whatever you're looking at, whatever you're doing, and you critically think about it, and by critically think, I just mean look at what you're doing in terms of a site design and break it down in terms of what the user is going to go through. What's the plan for the user? If you are building a site and somebody asks you what's the plan for the user and you can't answer, then you need to start over, because the whole point of a website, a magazine, a book, a piece of paper, a brochure, a business card, anything is always a plan. There's a plan behind it. I'm presenting X. I'm getting people to take Y action by presenting X. Or I'm doing a whole bunch of them at once, which is usually the case. You know, when it comes to the Met, they're looking to have you visit their exhibitions, sponsor them, join and give, shop in their store. They've got a bunch of different things. Same thing for Apple. Apple doesn't want you just buying the iPhone. They want you to buy computers. They want you to buy iPads. They want you to buy watches. They want you to, you know, go in iTunes and spend a fortune on music. They have all kinds of things they want you to spend money on, but they're presenting it to you piece by piece, most important first, right? They know the iPhone is their flagship right now. So because that's their flagship, they're going to present it first and foremost, because odds are you're going to be buying that. If you guys have a client, and let's say your client's a restaurant and it's called, you know, Gino's Pizza, for example, right? What would your flagship be? Would it be your steaks? Would it be sushi? Would it be, you know, no, it's going to be pizza. So that would be your flagship on the website. And your flagship might be something, if you were designing Gino's site, you might build it somewhat like this, where at the top we have, you know, navigation, and below it we've got a big image of a beautiful pizza, and it says, come taste the best pizza in Wisconsin. Let's say if Gino's was out there. And learn more. You click on learn more and it brings you to a page, and on that page it explains, you know, Gino's Mediterranean heritage and how he knows how to cook the best pizza in the world. And he, you know, it goes into his story, and it shows the pizza, and it shows the brick oven burning, and there's graphics supporting a narrative. Think in terms of that. Okay? Doesn't mean that you don't have a section on the chicken piccata or fettuccine alfredo or whatever else, but it does mean that you're paying attention to your flagship and pushing that first and foremost. Bad sites like this, and they are endless. I could talk for hours about the garbage, that I see when I'm looking at bad sites, whether it's absolutely horrible design, shabby craftsmanship, horrible layout. It's endless. So rather than talk about that, right, rather than sit and dwell in stupidity, I wanted to show you guys stuff that works. This is an example of an exceptionally horrible website, okay? So I'm just going to pop this into chat here. You guys can take a look at that. That's an example of a terrible site. There are many like it. This one is, just one of the worst. It's so bad that if you Google it, you'll find like 10,000 entries. It's all over YouTube and everywhere being reviewed as the worst site ever. Anyhow, focus on the positive principles. If I could give you guys homework, if I could tell you, something you should be doing, go and take a good hard look at the Apple website. Go and take a look at the Met, right? metmuseum.org. Right, take a look at it and think about it in terms of not of the visuals. People get caught up in the visuals, like this image of a guy or this door this woman is looking at. They get caught up in that. That's not what it's about. It's about the structure. Okay, good images are something you can find, you can buy, or you can have produced. Usually, you can find them. Sometimes you buy them. If you can't do either, you get them produced. That's not the big deal. The big deal is how to utilize those good images as a tool for basically manipulating the behavior of the visitor. Okay, guys, really important point. Now, let me go back because I think we have a couple things to go over. And I know I put together some slides I didn't end up really using, like websites. I just went over the clutter and the intuitively ugly mess of bad sites. And bad sites pay no attention to the human eye because they don't. Bad sites are often illogical. I would say they're almost always illogical. Now, right here, websites. Good sites, this is my good site page. Good sites are clear and concise. Good sites are beautiful. Good sites are well planned. I just wanted to throw some stuff up there for you guys to consider. The last thing I'm going to go over, and I'm going to go over this real briefly, is print advertising, because a lot of people, and I don't know why this is, I don't have a presentation for this, but it's pretty straightforward to understand. A lot of people look at print advertising as this sacred cow, like it is something that is, being done by these otherworldly beings, the designers of the 1980s. Wow. It's not. It's just graphics, the same exact graphics that you're designing for the web in terms of websites, in terms of, graphics for all the purposes that we use. All it is a higher DPI, meaning dots per inch, version of the exact same thing that's going through a printing machine. Wow, that's, rocket science. No, it's not. Print follows more or less the same conventions of design and the same rules as the web. Now, some people will say that's not true for like newspapers. Well, if you really dig into that whole thing, because I have literally gone through book after book after book of design, and I've read many people say, oh, well, the rules that apply for magazines and the web do not apply to print and newspapers. What they're talking about are black and white newspapers, something that hasn't been printed, since the 80s? I mean, maybe there's some out there. I haven't seen them in a long time. And the differences are this. If you have a black and white newspaper, you have no gradations, right? Or you have very subtle gradations. The gradations between black and white are literally just dots spreading out to create gray. Things like fonts and things like, putting white text on a black background will cause problems, okay, some of the time. Don't worry about that. That's obscurity. When you're going to deal with print, if you're going to deal with print, and this is a choice, you're going to be dealing with your clients. And they're all going to have the same kind of needs. They need brochures, they need business cards, they may need you to help them build a banner. You maybe have an opportunity to partner with a local print shop and to sell print advertising when you're going out there and you're dealing with businesses. It can be really helpful. It can be helpful, to have that in your arsenal. Don't get overwhelmed or don't get scared. Your print shop will explain to you exactly what they need for a given thing. Like if you go into a print shop and say, hey, I need to get a brochure printed. Well, they're going to say, okay, well, we need, for a trifold, we're going to need XYZ in terms of sizes, and we're going to need XYZ in terms of images. Very easy for you to go search, go on a site like I showed you before, Pixabay, go on Shutterstock, go wherever you have to go, get yourself the images, scale them down, save them out, send them off. Very, very straightforward. Print is not it does not have some crazy, crazy skill set that requires all kinds of stuff. And just an FYI for you guys, one of the reasons why print is so revered or so, I'm not going to say like respected, but so thought of as complicated is because of typesetting. Okay. Typesetting was an industry that's largely died. Okay. It's still out there, but typesetting's going away. Basically, the way it worked was when you wrote a novel or you wrote a book, you sit there and you write your book either on your typewriter or on a computer. And at the end of it, you have a file or a series of files or else a manuscript in physical print. They would go off to a typesetter to be formatted for print. And typesetting is almost like computer programming, believe it or not. It requires you to write in something called latex, okay, or text. And that's a type of sort of formatting language that you use to lay out the pages so that there's no drift and stuff across, you know, the thousands of pages of your manuscript. So everything lines up and looks correct. And, you know, it has stuff like scientific equations and formats and, you know, it's pretty complex and high end, but largely due to modern, you know, conveniences like the computer and, you know, different ways that we do print advertising, it's gone away. Just wanted to throw that in there for you guys, just as a little FYI. You may have heard of latex or text, and that's a typesetting language, basically. And there are specific applications that allow you to work with latex text documents like Text Studio, Text Maker, etc. They are not apps that I know very well, and I have no interest in knowing them very well. But anyway, I would really like to answer some questions now. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of the presentation and leave this up and answer your questions. Let's see. Tom's asking, does learn more mean another page? Tom, learn more can mean anything. It can mean another page. It could mean a part of a same page down further. It could mean a downloadable document. It could mean anything. And what Tom's talking about, I think, Tom, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you're talking about is like here on this website, right? When you're looking at something like Artist Interview, Watch Now, or the Primer, or on Apple's site where it says learn more, right? Basically, learn more means exactly what it says, learn more, right? Think of it like this. Just think of it in your head. You read a topic, iPhone XR, all screen design, longest battery life ever in an iPhone, fastest performance, studio quality photos, and it says beneath it, learn more. Well, it's probably going to link you to a page filled with information about it. Everything has to follow logic, right? Everything. There's no secrets here. And I know it can seem like there's secrets here, but there's not. So when you look at stuff, and this is not a knock on you, Tom, at all. What I'm saying, though, is when you see something like that, if it occurs to you that it would be logical that learn more brings you to a section that's filled with, you know, information about it, it probably is. Let's see here. Tony's asking, should I create a 1-800 number or a local number for my business line? I just joined the Ultra. Also, who would you recommend? Who would I recommend for what, Tom? For a phone carrier? I would recommend you stay with just a local number at first. But, you know, you can go, and I mean, for peanut money, I used it for years. In fact, I still have an account. You can go get yourself a Skype account. And I know this is not industrial strength, but you can go get a Skype number for like $3 a month. It's nothing. And you can set up a 1-800 number with them for, I think it's $11.99 or something like that. It's so cheap that why not? So even if you get a local number and you get a local line, you can have a Skype line as well. And, you know, you can set up your Skype line to forward into your local line, right? So calls that come through one can shoot over to the other. Very, very nifty little system. And I've used that for a long time. I've loved Skype, especially if we're talking to family I have overseas and stuff like that. It's a very, very useful application. So other than that, I mean, I don't have any main phone carrier recommendations. I'm pretty simple. I use, you know, my phone is just an iPhone, and, you know, I just have it here, and my iPhone is AT&T. So, you know, I don't have any big recommendations there. Does anyone else have any questions? Did you guys like today's format of webinar? Because I did this webinar a little differently. I kind of meandered around and I went over a lot of different topics. If you guys want to see me cover topics in this sort of way, I'd be more than happy to do so. But I want to make sure I'm giving you guys stuff that you want to hear and you want to learn from. I don't want to, push out information that's, irrelevant or, off base. All right. Yeah. Thank you guys. All right. So, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Dale, you said yes, very much so. Yeah, I'd love to do webinars like this because I'd like to focus on substantive stuff that you guys can really use. And I know how it is when you get into this business or you get into this industry. There's lots of technical stuff, details that can really throw you off. But you get that one piece of information that brings things together, and it's like it unifies different topics, and suddenly you can just, your brain clicks and you're learning. You know what you're looking at. But I hope you guys take my advice. Go get yourself, and I don't know if I gave all the links. I think I did. I'd have to scroll up for Krita and GIMP and for Inkscape as well. Let me give you guys that link. This is for Inkscape. I don't know if I pasted this one. Again, free applications that I think everybody should have. And I mean, I'm going to do some videos on some other applications. I'm posting on the YouTube channel now. And I don't get a chance to really read the comments and respond to them. I mean, maybe I will in the future, but I am going to be posting a lot of videos on this subject. But there's a lot of different apps that are totally free that I think most people could benefit from having. And just to let you guys know, and I know I've said it before, I run Linux. I run a free operating system. I mean, my whole setup here is not like super high-end Macs and all kinds of stuff that's like thousands and thousands of dollars. It's just not. I don't need it. I have a lot of electronic stuff, but when it comes to my systems, I want, they're made my style. The company offers me least Macs, and I turn them down every time because they are not what I like to run. But Macs are great. They're very stable, and they've gotten a lot better in recent years. They did have a couple years they had problems, but they're doing really well. Nevertheless, the apps that I'm telling you about will run on Windows, Mac, and PC. And that's going to about reach time, and I'm going to wrap up today's webinar. Thank you guys, all of you, for attending. Thank you for helping me out when I need my mic checked and stuff like that. And I really look forward to us, to the new rollouts of new things here as a company. I really want to focus on things that make us more of a community, give us the ability to interface with each other online. I'm floating some ideas like that behind the scenes. And, I love the more contact with you guys. I don't mind doing these webinars at all. I would do one, every day even, if we had content, we had stuff to cover. So, feel free to drop your questions to support. Let them know if you want to address a question to me. I'd be happy to help you out. All right, guys. So get out there, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.